Greetings and welcome to another video by Sir Mike the Hedge Knight. We are going to take a look. We've got a couple of summons that we want to cover as they are rolling out members of the new Blacks faction. Let's start with Meleys or Meleys. I can't remember how they pronounce it in the show. As a quick reminder, the Blacks faction, what they do, they're a defensive faction. They get a faction bonus on defense. Now, recently they made changes to the defense formula in the game, making it much more important, more powerful. They say it's just for the really high defense tank type characters, protectors, but from what I've seen and some members of my alliance have seen, it's kind of across the board. It's getting a little tough to kill people with a high defense. Defense buffs are going to be very strong going forward. They also nerfed the greens, at least on defense, a little bit, so they're a little bit more beatable. And I guess that's what they wanted to do. In my prior video, I felt like what they were, this whole Fury and Enraged gimmick thing they're rolling out, I said, they're not going to beat the greens. Well, now with the greens getting a little bit of a hit to their strength and defense being more important, and the Blacks having defense buffs, and as we're going to see, some high defense characters with some good defensive abilities, and they ramp up. So the greens ramp down. They start really strong and get weaker as the combat goes on, and the Blacks are the opposite. So that I like. I didn't see the Blacks surviving the first few turns. Now with some of these changes, yeah, they might. So we're going to jump into that, but as a refresher, on top of their faction bonus of defense, they apply Fury. When a character has 5 Fury, they become enraged. Fury in and of itself will cause the target to get 5% more stamina and increase the effect of being enraged. So just getting a couple of Fury on people, they're going to get stamina a little faster. When they accumulate 5, they become enraged. Enraged cannot be removed, sort of like brittle. And when enraged, targets take 25% less damage from champion skills and traits, kind of like durability. And I assume that would stack with durability, which one of the new characters has a durability buff, so remains to be seen. On top of this 25%, quote unquote, quasi durability ability to take less damage from skills and traits, the members of the Blacks faction will also do something special when they become enraged. So you get the 25% sort of defensive buff, and then each character does something a little different when they become enraged. So without further ado, let's jump into Meleys. Now, first thing that we've got to talk about is Meleys is a dragon, which looks very cool. However, dragons are only available in PvE, player versus environment. So you will not, unless they've changed something soon, will not be able to use Meleys in Raid. You will not be able to use Meleys in Alliance War. If these are parts of the game that are very important to you, and I think they are to most players that I am familiar with, like the PvE stuff is great, like Crown's Challenge is cool, and campaign and trials and all that, but we're doing all that to build up our team so that we can have good raid teams, and now with the relatively new Alliance War, so that we can be competitive there and win some wars. It's asking a lot to put a lot of resources, into a still blooming new faction that doesn't have a lot of members yet. We've only got 3 legendaries right now, and if this is one of them, and I can't use Meleys in Raid, and I can't use Meleys in Alliance War, they're asking a lot to put a lot of resources in there. Now, that being said, we're going to walk into the skill set. Meleys obviously is a beast. Look at that defense stat. 60,600, which with 139.4 thousand hit points. We've got probably, I have to think, this is the highest defense character in the game. So like I said, Blacks faction, defense, ramp up as combat goes on. We've got a normal speed skill, deals 225% defense fire damage to an enemy, and gains 30% durability. So let's talk about this. We have a character that has extremely high defense. Their normal speed skill, it's a single target attack, does damage based on their defense. So that's good. So we have normally with a defensive character like a protector, you're often not doing a lot of damage, you're defensive. Here's a defensive character that's going to do hit pretty hard. On top of that huge defense and big hit points, they're going to get 30% durability. When enraged, and remember, enraged will give you another 25% off damage from incoming skills and traits. All enemies also suffer a negative 30% fire resistance debuff for 3 turns. So you want to talk tanks, like we're thinking protectors, well, I'm thinking Meleys. Meleys looks like, now I don't see a taunt. I don't see a taunt here, but very, very tanky. As a dragon, obviously no leadership skills. Passive, when Meleys takes damage from an enemy skill, she gains a fury. And remember, that's what it's all about. The blacks have to find ways of accumulating fury, getting 5, getting 2 enraged. Gains a fury with a 50% chance to grant one of her allies fury. When any team member becomes enraged, any, which I assume includes Meleys as well, she deals 20% current HP, current hit point fire damage to all enemies. Now, perhaps by the time you become enraged, Meleys is not at full hit points. But let's just assume, for argument's sake, she is 140, almost 140,000 hit points, 20%. That's 28,000 to all enemies, and you have 5 members of your team that can become enraged. So that's a 28,000, potentially 28,000 point hit that can happen 5 times during combat. So we've also got, and we didn't talk about Rhaenys yet. I will cover Rhaenys in this video, but we've got an ally bonus with Rhaenys. It replaces color clear power-ups, which are the 5 in a row. And look at this. You want to talk about, some of the ally bonuses in the game are like whatever. When activated, this gem stuns all enemies for 1 turn and wounds them for 3 turns. That is fantastic. I mean, the 1-turn stun in and of itself, I think, can be very, very strong. I know it's only a turn, but it's a turn. They're not gaining stamina. They're not triggering passives. They're not hitting you. They're not doing anything. So that could be very helpful. And the wounds for 3 turns, all those big renew teams and healers and all that, now they can't heal for 3 turns. So for an added bonus, when you get one of these color clear ups, pretty good. So, we'll do these individually since we're covering 3 characters in this video. What do we think of Meleys? Really good character. The faction, at first, I wasn't happy with it. Now the faction, it's starting to grow on me. I'm starting to wish I was a moderate spender, and because getting one or getting 1 or 2 members of the black, like, I don't know if that's enough. Like, I think if you're going to commit, you got to commit. You got to get some Meleys, you got to get some Rhaena, and you got to get Rhaenys. I think getting 1 or 2 is not great. Yes, Rhaenys, which we'll see, and Rhaenyra are also, they're double faction. They're members of Targaryens and the Blacks, so that you could throw them into your fire team, but you're not getting the full benefit of them because a lot of what they do is based on fury, is based on enraged. If you're just throwing them in there to get a little bit of fire, well, we got other people that do fire. So I don't know if that's worth the investment. I think, again, like I said before, I think it's a really smart idea by Zynga, so that you can get them now as they're slowly rolling out this Blacks faction, so they're not useless. It's not like I can get these characters now and I got to wait 2 months to play them. Nope, I can roll them into my fire team. I can find a use for them now, and they'll get better down the road. That I think was very smart. But if you're only going to get 1 because you're an F2P or you're a light spender, probably better to get none. Probably better to spend your in-game resources elsewhere. So overall, what do I think? Sounds like a really, really, really strong character. Unfortunately, if you can't use it, Meleys in PvP, I hate to say it, but why are you wasting my time? So let's move on from Meleys, and we have Rhaenys Targaryen. They made her a fighter. So many tanky blues in the game that whenever you see an offensive-minded green character, you have to, the antenna has to go up. Like, okay, this is something that I can use. Ever since the defense buff went into play, I'm seeing a lot more. You always see a lot of Starks in Raid. Now I'm seeing them even more because Ned and Sam from the Night's Watch and King of the North Jon Snow and their huge defense and the taunt, and it takes forever to take these guys down. More, 1, because they boosted defense, 2, because they're protectors, and 3, because they're blue. And to do damage against blue, you need green. And a lot of the greens in the game are not big damage dealers. So having a green fighter in the game, and let's take a look at these stats. 53.8k attack, pretty good, pretty good. And defense, not bad, not bad. This doesn't seem like someone who's squishy with 48,000 defense. Hit points might be a little low, but that's okay. Uh, Getting a green fighter that can now counteract some of those tanky blues with the big defense buffs and all that, right off the bat, that's a plus. She has a slow speed skill. Rhaenys will gain a Fury with a 100% chance to remove 3 buffs. Now, again, this is at 7-star, obviously, but 100% chance to remove 3 buffs from an enemy, who she then strikes for 250% attack physical damage. Again, as a fighter, over 50,000 attack, so it's damage based on attack is good. Single target attack. When enraged, she will also stun her target for 2 turns. So she gets some Fury, which will get her toward enraged. She removes a bunch of buffs. She hits pretty hard, and she stuns for 2 turns if she's enraged. The only thing I'm not happy about is slow speed. The 250% attack physical damage, you see some single target attackers that do more. So even though she has a high attack, like could be a little bit higher, but also removes 3 buffs, also gives herself a Fury. Fury will increase her stamina collection going forward and get her toward being enraged. And then if enraged, stunning the target for 2 turns. Pretty good stuff. Her leadership ability is interesting. When she gains a Fury, she grants 1 Fury to 3 random allies with a 50% chance to remove a Fury from herself. So she gains a Fury and removes a Fury. So it is Fury generation, which is so important to the faction. I don't like that she removes it from herself, and I think at lower skill levels, it's 100% chance to remove Fury from herself. At least when it goes up, at some point you'll get to 50%. Maybe she gains a Fury and her allies get, now she's like a Fury engine. Not a bad leadership ability. She has an HP guard at 25 and 50%. I like the HP guards. 2 HP guards, when activated, all allies gain Fury and all enemies afflicted with fire. Offensive character with a pretty good defense, ton of Fury generation here. Now the thing with the HP guards that I never liked is 25%. Well, once I'm down there, I'm not going to live much longer. Okay, I get it. But if someone's going to whittle her down, she's going to get the rest of the clan, the rest of the faction, with all that Fury she generates, going to get them up to enraged status really quick. And on top of that, throwing out a bunch of fire. So really, really like the passive. Member of both the Blacks and Targaryens, as we talked about. So again, useful in a fire team, gets Fury. And keep in mind, you don't have to be a member of the Blacks to become enraged. Anyone with 5 Fury can become enraged and at least get the benefit of 25% of what's kind of like durability, like 25% less damage from incoming damage from skills and traits. Not so bad. So what do we think about Rhaenys Targaryen? I like her. Like I said, that this faction is growing on me, and when first released, I said, but this, yeah, they wasted their, they blew it. Zynga dropped the ball. No one's going to buy these characters. The greens are still the champs. It's going to be another year of greens, dominating the leaderboards. They're taking active steps to stop. They even said it. They said that the intent was not to have 90% of the leaderboard greens factions, and they called it like a wall. You run into a wall of greens. You can't advance. They said no. We want innovation. We want creativity. We want people to mix and match their teams. We don't want one good team to be the meta, basically, that everybody gets and nothing else can compete. So now they're making the greens weaker, and now if the greens are a little weaker and the blacks can get through a few turns, and we've seen now you got some HP guards here. Again, the only thing I'd really like to see, boy, if you have a taunt, or if you throw in like the Dragonstone Meister and get him to a point where he can throw a taunt on Rhaenys, now the enemies have to focus on her. You have to hit a couple of those HP guards. Now she's throwing Fury around. She's throwing fire around. Ooh, boy. Some really interesting combos. Really looks like a really strong character. And again, also has that ally bonus. But again, just got to say it, ally bonus with Meleys, no PvP it's just bothering me. I think you can tell it's just bothering me at this point. And the only other character that I want to talk about, they introduced another epic, is Rhaena Targaryen, a blue protector. What a surprise. Stats for an epic, stats are okay. She has really high defense, so we're starting to see a trend here. Slow, speed, skill. Rhaena and target ally gain 1 Fury, and a shield equal to 50% of their respective attack. Now, Rhaena's attack is low. She is a defensive-oriented character. She's a protector, so her shield won't be that good. But you throw her on a very offensive character that has an extremely high attack, and that's going to be a healthy shield. That's going to be a pretty good shield. On top of that, target ally gains stealth for 3 turns, and Rhaena gains 8% defense for each fury she has. So again, defensive theme. She's building up fury. She gets fury from her skill. Now she gets a defense buff. When Rhaena gains a buff, she extends the duration of stealth on all allies by a turn and heals herself for 5% max HP. Okay, not bad. I don't. There's plenty of characters in the game that use stealth. You don't see any stealth teams, but she has an ability that'll put stealth on someone. Maybe you have other characters on the team that have some stealth. She'll extend the duration by 1, which can be helpful, and she also heals herself. So as far as leadership abilities go, again, don't see too many stealth teams, not sure. It seems like a good ability, but not something I would want to forego a better leadership ability for. I'm sure someone will find a combination out there that'll make this pretty good. And it's pretty easy to trigger whenever she gains a buff. I mean, I assume, I haven't played with the blacks yet, but I assume Fury is a buff. So if you're on a team that's generating Fury, every time a Fury comes on, that's a buff. That's going to ping the skill. You get a nice heal. 5% max HP for a passive heal is not bad for a defensive character. Passive ability, when she takes damage from a skill, she grants all stealth allies 1 fury. Not too familiar with stealth. If you put together a team where you have some characters that can get into stealth, anytime she takes damage, giving all of them a fury, again, fury generation, very important for the faction, seems pretty good. And check this out. At the start of the turn, if Rhaena is enraged, she and all stealthed allies gain a shield equal to 10% of Rhaena's current hit points. So once she becomes enraged, at the start of the turn, so every turn, even if you have no stealth allies, she's gaining a 10% current HP shield. If you have a couple people in stealth and she puts someone in stealth, they're going to gain that shield too, every turn. I mean, what am I missing here? Is this OP? I mean, I get it. She's just an epic. 10% current HP shield just to give it to herself as a protector with fairly high defense is something. Now you're going to give it to stealth allies, even if you just have 1 or 2, and they're in stealth for a couple of turns. I mean, this is a shield that's just going to go up and up and up, and this is a really interesting skill. This is something. So let's wrap up by how do we feel about Rhaena? I mean, for an epic, I like her a lot. Even not knowing what characters I would pair her with, what combo her with, because I don't, off the top of my head, I've never seen like a stealth team. But even not knowing that, just seeing how strong she can be makes me want to try. Makes me want to start doing some research. Makes me want to find some characters that are useful, that have some other synergy, that also have a way of getting into stealth, like a Ghost, like a Purple Arya. Maybe a 1/1 is lead, not really sure. But boy, you get her enraged and she just starts dropping shields every turn. I think of shield like a heal. And yes, certain characters will do more damage against shield, like a Stannis. So it's not exactly the same. It's actually better because a character can be at full hit points and still get a shield. If you're at full hit points and you get a big heal, it doesn't do anything. So yeah, for an epic, this character seems like it's really strong, and I'm starting to warm up on this Blacks faction. I'm starting to think that some people are gonna, it's gonna start with the spenders, of course. If you're a light spender or free to play, how are you getting every single one of these characters up to 3, 4, 5, 6, usable level type of thing? Starting to think that there's a little something, something here. Starting to think that, what I'm concerned with is a couple of months from now, Zynga wanted to get to a point where the leaderboards aren't dominated by greens. Well, is it going to be dominated by blacks? Like, is that going to be any better if 90% of the player base has just this ridiculous team that if you don't take them out by the 3rd turn or the 4th turn, they're going to start building up defense to a point, defense, shield, stealth, enraged. You're going to get to a point where you can't take them out. Oh boy! So that's what we've got for you today. Much more upbeat. I think you could tell from my tone today. than my Rhaenyra video where I said, not so good. Starting to see the light here. Starting to see that they had a plan. The only problem right now is we still just got 3 legendaries. So now the question that's coming up is where are the rest, and what are they going to create another event? There was rumors of a 6th event. Are they going to create an event and throw 3 more new legendary blacks characters into the event, making them event only? If they do, it's going to become a pay faction. It's going to become a pay faction. Like no matter how many green and purple tokens you get and how much you play, not going to be able to accumulate those. So again, we're putting the cart before the horse. We do not know this for sure. But looking ahead, they released the next couple of summons. I think they're going to be Lannisters, which the Lannisters do need some help. But that sort of means they're closing the tap on the blacks for now, and it's an incomplete faction. So I'm starting to think those rumors are true. So something to consider. If you watch this video and you're falling in love with Rhaenys and you like Meleys and say, I don't care that it's not PvP, and oh, Rhaenys fantastic and she's epic, so a little bit easier to level. Keep that in mind. It's still an incomplete faction, and it's possible that the other half of the faction gets gated by being event only summons. So if you spend all your resources now and even a little bit of cash, don't be, it may not happen, but if it does, don't be surprised. Fair warning. Thanks for watching. Comment below. Let me know what you think about the new Blacks characters, and we will see you soon.